Hey folks, let's talk gardening in the garden, and then we're gonna plant some tobacco, or as we say in the South, backer. Hey folks, it's middle of April and we got summer squash starting to come in. Now let's look at these leaves right here. You see that right there, that gray right there? A lot of people are concerned when they see that, thinking it's disease. Well, that's actually normal for certain varieties of squash. Now the yellow one that you see there, or the brown, that is not normal. Let's look here. Maybe you can show a little better right there. See that yellow one right there? I just noticed that this morning. That is mildew. That's a disease that we've gotten on our squash. It just showed up today. Now the reason we got this is about 4 days ago, we had 3 days of overcast, light rainy days, and that set us up for this disease right here. Looking back on there, if I'd had a fungicide on there before that, could have helped some, but we just had ideal conditions to set up for that mildew, and that's what's happened. Normally we don't have this problem in early spring, but we got it here. Now I'm not going to treat these. This is summer squash. I'm just going to plant some more. We're going to still have a decent harvest of these right here. These things grow fast, so I'm not going to treat these. Now, if this was winter squash, it'd be a different story. I'd probably treat them. But we're just going to plant some more, and we're going to make the best out of what we got. The new leaves underneath there look nice, so we'll be fine. It's also time to take those multiplying onions and split them up and replant. Now, I got a little small raised bed right here, and I'm going to plant me a few in this raised bed. Now these are going to be my eating multiplying onions. If I have any left over, I'll save them from seed stock, but I'm pretty much going to plant some right here so we can have some nice onions to eat on. Now trim the roots back, also trim the tops back, and you can split them up. It don't take a whole lot of root for these things to come back. And I will plant them in here, keep us some nice green onions for the springtime. And we got us a crop of SuperBee Phacelia growing as a cover crop and for the bees right here. It's just coming up right here. Now this is a great crop for that spring or fall, or maybe in the winter time also. It doesn't take extreme colds, but it will tolerate a good bit of cold weather, but it doesn't like the extreme heat. So I normally plant this in the fall and in the spring. And if it goes into the winter time, that's okay too. But this is a great plant to use as a cover crop for these plots on the layout. It's going to scavenge those nutrients, and the bees absolutely love it. I'm working with a couple of heirloom collards to see how they're going to perform for us down here in the South. Now this one right here is one called Cabbage collards. A lot of the old timers love to talk about cabbage collards, and you can see it has that light green, yellowish kind of color to it. And it seems to have a lot of vigor. Now we've not taste tested this one yet, but it seems to be performing pretty well. One we have over here is one that is absolutely stunning. If you can see the purple stems in there. Now this is Alabama Blue heirloom collards. These collards here are rich in history, been grown for years and years and years. And they're fun to grow. We're going to do some tasting on them, see which ones taste the best. You know, the color on the Alabama Blue is just beautiful, but the vigor on these cabbage collards seems to be a little bit more aggressive. Well, we got a row of red snapper determinate tomatoes here, and I'm doing some experiments with this on extreme pruning and suckering. These cicada varieties normally don't take much pruning or suckering, but I got a short row of these right here that I'm gonna really prune back hard and keep them suckered and see if it makes any difference. And I got some on the other side of here that I'm going to use as a control, and I'm not going to prune those, and just see if it makes any difference at all. And we got a lot of peppers we're growing this year. We got our Hossinator series of peppers we're growing out, and we got a whole row of an experimental numbered variety right here that we're going to grow out and see how it performs for us. Oh, I love tomatoes. Growing them down here to see how they perform, stack up against one another. This variety right here is called Myrtle. Never grown it before, but we're going to grow it out this year. See how it performs in the deep south. We'll have a lot of insect and disease pressure there. Kind of excited about that one. If you've ever grown Myrtle before, let me know what your thoughts are on it. And the garden wouldn't be complete without a row of Hossinators. This Hossinators here I planted just the other day. This is a later crop that's going to extend our harvest winter. So after my red snappers get going good, maybe these Hossinators will step up so I can have a longer winter of harvesting those big old slicing tomato sandwich tomatoes. So here's my watermelon patch. I love growing these yellow doll watermelons right here. These small personal size yellow meated watermelons that are sweet. We love the flavor of them. Now these have sit here, been planted a couple weeks, and they're ready to start vining, moving out. See there, just about overnight these things will explode and start runners out. We got to be careful to keep these middles clean, so once they start this vining or this running, it's going to be harder to cultivate and to weed. So we want to make sure we get our middles nice and clean, so when they start running, they can run out there and do their job. In the greenhouse, we've got our first plant, the jambalaya, that's getting close, but it's not quite ready. We want these roots to hold together a little bit better than what they are. Maybe another week, this jambalaya will be ready to transplant out. And yet right here, I've got a crop of red coral, which is a new tomato for me. This is a determinate grape type tomato, which is kind of hard to come by. It's got very good disease resistance, and it's got very good flavor. So I'm excited about that one. We're gonna grow that one out and see how it does here in the South. If it works out like I hope it does, we'll have these seeds available later on. Well, here we have our tobacco. First year I've ever grown tobacco, so I'm kind of excited about this. It's one of my new things for growing for this year. And done pretty well with it. Got a nice root system there. It's ready to put into the garden. But I'm gonna tell you what, if you've never grown tobacco from seed before, do a little research. We got a video out there showing how we planted these and how we watered them, how we got them up. A little tricky, a little finicky to get them going, but we had pretty good results with them. And today we're going to plant them out in the garden. Now our three varieties, Southern Dolly, Shirley Dark, and our Heritage Gold that we're going to plant. Now the recommended row spacing on tobacco is 4 feet apart. And then your recommended in-row spacing is going to be 24 inches apart. So we've got our drip tubing here, and these emitters are every 6 inches, so that's going to lay our spacing out for us. It's going to be easy for us to figure out the 24 inches. Now the old-time tobacco farmers, they like to use a special tobacco fertilizer such as 399. That was one of the most popular tobacco fertilizers out there. We don't have access to that nowadays, so what we did about a week ago is we came in here and we put compost where these lines are, where our row is going. We also incorporated some complete organic fertilizer in there. So we've got our soils supercharged, ready for the tobacco transplants. Now, another thing you need to watch out for when you plant these is cutworms. Cutworms love little tender tobacco transplants. So as soon as we get through planting these, we're going to take our sprayer with our Bug Buster 2 and come back, and we're going to spray at the base of these plants here to deter those cutworms. As far as insects goes, when this tobacco gets on up, we'll have to keep an eye on hornworms. And then we have diseases. The most dreaded disease in tobacco is one called black shank. Now the way the home gardener is going to control black shank is by rotation. Normally speaking, you want to be on a 4-year rotation with tobacco, and that'll help you with those soil-borne diseases to help control them. Now when tobacco gets on up, we used to crop and sucker tobacco. From a garden standpoint, I'm not sure I'm going to do that. They always top that tobacco to put more energy to make that big old pretty leaf. While we're interested in the leaf, maybe to make some medicine out of, I'm not going to smoke it, I'm not a smoker. We're going to let it flower out because the flower on the tobacco is pretty, and it's going to add a little something to our garden here. And as far as sucker, we may sucker a little bit, but we're not going to sucker it real hard. And you sucker them first few leaves on the top there. And we'll have some nice tobacco leaves, something very unusual in the garden, and we'll have that pretty tobacco flower. Now we got plenty of other stuff going in the garden. I'm going to plant some sweet potatoes and some raised beds to grow some draws or slips off of. My corns are kicking it, gonna have to keep it laid by and healed. It's that time of the year I love to get out here late in the afternoon and work about dark, enjoy what the good Lord give us. So make sure you get outside, enjoy it too, and get yourself dirty.